trying to comprehend God would be just like trying to put an ocean into a thimble. God is so far above us. He's so beyond us. It's impossible to comprehend God. He's so great in everything. And we see in our readings tonight that when Jesus says, I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were still blazing. The baptism he's referring to is not the baptism of John in the Jordan. It's not the baptism that we have received. It's the baptism of his passion and death. What God would do what Jesus did? What God would become human and take on human nature so that he could suffer and die in his mission? We could compare perhaps if you were a millionaire and you had everything that money could buy, and you had prestige and power and pleasure. Could you turn your back on all of that? Could you turn your back on all of that out of love for someone? It would be very difficult, wouldn't it? But what did Jesus, the Son of God, do? He turned his back on all of his eternal glory to become a human being and to suffer and die for you and me on the cross. We get a glimpse of what it means in the letter to St. Paul, from St. Paul to the Ephesians tonight, that we must let Christ dwell in our hearts through faith. We look at the Eucharist and we can look at the crucifix and we know that Jesus suffered and died on the cross. But do we take time to really comprehend that mystery? What he went through, the horrible agony of the crucifixion, and he did it for you and me. He did it so that you and I could be in this church tonight, so that we could draw closer to him, so that he could feed us with his own body and blood. The Lord loves us beyond what we can even begin to imagine. But as St. Paul says in the reading to the Ephesians, that we must know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that we be filled with the fullness of God. He wants to become a part of our very depths of our own hearts. The men here from the Knights of Columbus tonight realize that and want to become closer to Christ by spending time in adoration before the Eucharist and to celebrate the Mass. All of you are here for the same reason. And what better way can we grow in our faith and knowledge of Christ than by receiving his body and blood and listening to his word? The gospel seems strange, and it's hard to understand. Jesus is saying that there will be many who will not comprehend what he's teaching, but there will be many who will strive to understand it in faith and continue to live it. And so there can even be dissensions in households over the faith. I've seen that, perhaps you have too. I know of many converts to Catholicism whose family disowned them because they left the religion that they were born with, and how difficult that is at times. But there can be disagreements in so many ways. But if we follow what Jesus is really saying in the scriptures, then we come to a knowledge of his truth. And his truth is that he is God and that he came on this earth so that we could all be united with God. And so it's a wonderful mystery. And how fortunate we are to be able to be here in the presence of Christ tonight in this quiet church, just a few people. But what we're doing here is affecting the whole world. Every Mass we offer affects the whole world. And so tonight, perhaps just look at the crucifix, look at the monstrance with the host, and just think about what Jesus did to make himself present here and to do for us what he did for us. It's very humbling, isn't it? You and I know how unworthy we are, but the Lord makes us worthy through his sacraments and wants us then, once we have grown closer to him, he wants us then to go out into the world. It says to accomplish the power at work within us. The power at work within us is that Christ is within us and that we can go out and share Christ with others. That's what our mission is in the church. And Jesus gives us the ability to do that. So we're fortunate to be here tonight in the presence of our Lord who redeemed us, provides a place for heaven for each and every one of us, and also gives us the day-by-day strength to live our faith in this world. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.